Ready? Yeah. Welcome back. Back for another episode, but like I said last time, we're opening this box. Remember what I said? Google that part number. That one there. $5,000 for this box. I'm keeping this. Now look, it's not very often we get the opportunity to open things like this, or to have things like this, or for people to bring you things like this and be like, hey, mess this up. So we got local government, federal credit union in the house, and they're gonna help us out opening this box. Wow! This is an exciting moment. Also, shout out Ray Crow. Pretty sure he's the one that sent this out. Here it comes. Ooh. Oh, what's this? What are these? Oh, just to fill the air. Oh, I'm definitely keeping these too. Ooh. Ooh. Check that out. Look at that. Oh my gosh. What's this? Sure hope there's something in here. Yeah, that's the receipt. There's a dollar value on there. You know what it is. Alright. Ooh. Where's Jack? Anybody watch Unbox Therapy? His favorite food, silica gel. There it is, man. Ooh. New oil injectors, new hook, new studs, new flywheel, utility hook just to get it up out of here. Everything. There's even an oil pan on it, which is coming off because I gotta put the oil pan brace on. It sucks, because I gotta break that OEM Mazda seal. But whatever, it is what it is. So now we just gotta get it out of the box. Yeah, so like I was saying, very rare opportunity we have here. So I got it off the crane. I got it on the ground next to the old one. I mean, you already know how nasty this one is comparatively. But the main goal now, or the next objective I should say, is to build this one up to be put back in. I think it's best to start, you know, with the simple stuff and then just kind of move on. Majority of this stuff can go back on. And by majority of it, just about all of it. I got a list that I made for basically everything that needs to happen, and we'll get to that later, but yeah, just start putting stuff back on. I'm gonna start with the coil packs because it's easy. I cleaned up the bolts because the old crusty ones, well, I mean, these are the original ones, but they're nice and clean now. I'm trying to get everything appropriate and shiny because against this beautiful motor, I would like everything to be very presentable. So I'm gonna start with that. Coil packs are all clean. I even cleaned up the plugs a little bit, or a lot of it actually. So it's white and black and blue, and it's nice and clean now. So I'd like everything to be nice, like I keep saying. But yeah, let's do that. got the injectors back from Boost Lab, and these are what they flowed at, and this is where we stand. So not a huge improvement, but definitely still better than it was, and that's why we do these things, because we have to. So brand new injectors. Also, fuel temp sensor, we deleted because we don't need it. Fuel pulsation dampener deleted because we don't need it. Fittings in there. I got thread sealant on there, so these aren't going to leak. Just to clarify, that plug that I put in there with the sealant, it leaked a lot, a whole lot. That was for the fuel temp sensor. So what I did was I took a spare fuel temp sensor that I had, and I cut the plug end off of it, and then installed that and used it as a plug, and of course it didn't leak. But do not do what I did and do that, because it'll leak. It's all nice and clean, everything is good, so we can put the injectors back in here. But before we mount the rail, we got to run the vacuum lines for the oil injectors. It's infinitely easier to do with the rail out, so that's what we're going to do first. Now, I want to mention something. Obviously these need to be tied together, so we need a T-fitting. When it comes to T-fittings in the rotary engine, or rotary engine bay, I should say, or really any car, do not use plastic T-fittings. Period. Only use the brass ones. Go to Ace Hardware or go somewhere and buy brass T-fittings or reducers or step-ups or whatever, and always use those. So we're gonna run these vacuum lines. These are gonna be the first vacuum lines we're gonna run for the motor. Then once they're on, we can put the fuel rail on and proceed. We're actually gonna do the power steering AC bracket next. I need to clean it up and replace the little hose there, which is somewhere here on the floor. And replace that hose and then get all that bolted back up. And then we'll put that on next, because that's a pretty big piece to go on, because yeah, it is. So let's do that. Alright, there's our fuel rail setup. Stock! How crazy is that? Vacuum line for the oil injector, vacuum line for the oil injector. These two will meet somewhere around here in the middle, so the T-fitting, and then whatever. So with the non-sequential, you can kind of run your vacuum lines the way you want. I found for the fuel pressure regulator, using that nipple down there and just routing it back here is the cleanest and easiest way to do that. For these, I'm going to use the T-fitting, and then I'm going to run this to the back of the intake manifold, because we have 1,000 open ports now to use. And that's one less vacuum line that's going to be in front of the motor that's going to be visible. So we'll run this to the back, and that'll be nice and clean. But the power steering bracket is all cleaned up, really cleaned up, extra cleaned up, even clean the back of it. Nobody's going to see that, but I will, and I know it's there. Also, the reservoir is as clean as it's going to get. It's yellow, but it is what it is. This is as clean as this is going to get. I took the bracket off too. It just slips off, and I cleaned that up. So the whole setup is clean and is now ready to be reinstalled on the motor. Here we have current situation. So it's about as assembled as it can be right now. AC compressor's on, and power steering thing is on. Well, really nice, really clean. Huge difference when everything on the motor is clean. If I would have just transferred everything over as dirty as it was, it wouldn't look like this. See what I'm saying? Like, just in cleaning alone, I'd probably have 3 or 4 days, but the end product is just so worth it. Like, everything is just so nice. You know? You gotta take the time to do these things sometimes. In fact, all the time, actually. But anyway, something about these motor mounts here. So I've never actually used the aluminum motor mount because you don't have to. You can use 2 steel mounts, which is what I've always done. And the thing about the aluminum mount that I didn't know is that there's a big nub on the mount. In fact, this is what it looks like. It's a big nub on the mount that actually sits right there. When you use the aftermarket mount, it's a bolt now that has to run through there. So what you have to do is you actually have to drill a hole through it. And, yeah, you got to drill a hole through it. But in order to drill that hole, you first have to grind off like 35 millimeters worth of rubber. There you can see the nub. It's a lot of rubber that's on here. You have to grind that off so that the motor mount will sit flush, and so that you can actually drill the hole through there. It's extremely difficult and really annoying, and I hated every minute of it. But it's done, and those are good. Anyway, so the next thing to do now is the oil pan brace. So here's the issue I'm facing. If I remove all of the stock hardware, right, there's a very good chance that that seal will not break and that it'll be fine once I put the studs in and tighten the brace down. The issue is, if I'm wrong, it's going to leak. So what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to take the chance. I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to strip all the old gasket off, or I should say new gasket, and then just make a whole new gasket. I don't want to take the chance and all this work and then, you know, something that's, no, I just want to play with it. So next annoying thing I got to do, but the last annoying thing I have to do, is this oil pan brace. And once that's done, I made a list, another list, of course. But once that's done, all I'm doing next is waiting for the remaining engine pieces to come back from my welder guy, because they're all getting modified for stuff that's being deleted and whatever else, along with the turbos getting the gates and everything cut out and getting the holes welded up. Once all that stuff comes back, then the turbos can go on. And I mean that, you know, when the motor's out, putting the turbos on isn't really all that big of a deal. Oil pan, turbos, wire harness, upper intake manifold, and then the motor is ready to go back in. Oh, and the clutch, of course, but, you know, besides that, then the motor is ready to go back in, and that's where we'll be at. There you have it. Oil pan is on, brace is on, motor mounts are on, studs are in. So what I was doing with the drill there is I was running a M6x1 tap through each one of these holes, and what that does is it cleans them out. There's a lot of RTV remnants in there, because when you put the RTV on and you run the bolt through, it drags it up into the hole. You don't ever want to tighten anything down like that. So you got to clean the holes out, and that's what I did with the tap. Fortunately, it wasn't all that bad. Side note, most of this RTV hasn't even cured. Like, a lot of it is still wet, which is weird. I mean, according to the date on the box, it was packed 2019-607, but that's not necessarily when it was built. But still, it was really weird that a lot of RTV was still wet, especially here on the on these. Oh, you can see it. I just touched it with my thumb and like it transferred over to my finger. Yeah, look, it's still wet. That's really weird. Or maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Anyway, it's all sealed up now, and it's all good. So until we get parts back from the fab guy, this is as far as we can go. It's as assembled as it can be. Oh, also, these Greddy drain plugs, if you guys don't have them on your car, you need to get them. These things are absolutely amazing. After your first oil change, you'll be absolutely surprised how much is attached to this. Extremely powerful magnet on here, and it keeps all the crap that's floating around, all the metal shavings and everything, keeps them right here instead of in here. And being that this is a brand new motor, we're gonna definitely need this. As the bearings and everything else wear in, all those metal shavings have to go somewhere. And better that they go, once they hit the pan, that they stay here, so when we do the oil change, we just take them all out, and they're not just floating around in here doing what they want to do. So we're gonna do another time jump. I'll see you guys when I see you guys, and that's gonna be when I get parts back. So now that we're at a stopping point with the motor, what we're gonna do is we're moving on to the chassis. We got a bunch of work we gotta do with it to include all of this. All of that is on hold until we get parts, but we gotta do all this stuff next. The parts pile shrunk a little bit, but all of that needs to find its way into, well, not this, but all of that needs to find its way into the car, or onto the car. So that's the next step. and we'll start that tomorrow.